In the second video of my multi-part video series on the Baltic Nation of Estonia, I explore a city completely destroyed by the Red Army in 1944, get harassed by the local police, and learn how Swedish troops fought the Russian Empire for the city over 300 years ago. This city was almost entirely destroyed in World War II. The Soviet bombing campaigns of early March of 1944 virtually leveled every single building in this entire city. And what made it worse was that the local Estonians were forbidden from returning to their homes after the war, and the Soviets repopulated the area with ethnically Russian inhabitants from other parts of the Soviet Union. And because none of the original inhabitants of the city prior to the beginning of the war were able to return, that's why we see a just massive population of Russians living here. Now, they might be Estonian citizens because they've been here for so many decades and their families have been here for so many decades, but they are still ethnically Russian, which is why over 95% of the population of this city speaks Russian. This bridge right here is one of the only few ways to cross from Narva into Ivangorod in Russia. And it's so weird to see all the people and the vehicles just going through from one side to the other like it's a normal day, because the thing you have to notice and think about here is that it's not just the border between one country and another. It's not just between Estonia and Russia. It's the border between the European Union and Russia. And as we all know, the current war in Ukraine is certainly not helping the tensions between either side. Sitting right on the western edge of the Narva River stands Herman Castle. Originally a large Danish-built fortress constructed as a border defense in the mid-1200s, this fortress has switched possession repeatedly between controlling nations and empires over a span of almost 700 years, all the way up until World War II. The Red Army met the retreating German army at the banks of the Narva River in early 1944, where an ensuing Soviet bombing raid over several days in March of 1944 completely leveled the old town of Narva into nothing more than a pile of rubble and debris. The following engagements that took place over the next 6 months during the Battle of Narva resulted in 500,000 casualties between the Soviet and German troops, not to mention an almost total and absolute destruction of the city of Narva, where 98% of the buildings in the city were completely destroyed. That's the fortress at Ivangorod, just across the river there. One of the themes that I keep seeing with the city is just how much the bombing raids that the Soviet Union did in March of 1944 and then the subsequent invasion in the summer, how much that affected this city. Because not only did it destroy 98% of the structures in the city, but it caused the population, the local population of actual ethnic Estonians to leave, which then followed with the Soviet Union banning those people from returning back to their homes here in Narva, and then repopulating the area with ethnic Russians. And then in the process of that, when they were rebuilding various parts of the city, there was no historical heritage in mind when they were rebuilding. So a lot of the old town areas that were completely destroyed were rebuilt with more modern buildings that did not resemble anything like what the old town or what any of the old architecture used to look like. I don't speak Estonian, sorry. Huh?
Do you have to go?
No, just this. No, just this. It is the next day, and I think what I want to do today is go around and see if I can find some locals to talk to see what life is like in this very interesting border town. I guess I should really call it a border city because it is the third largest city in Estonia.
Извините, вы говорите по-английски?
Извините, вы говорите по-английски?
Нет.
Нет. Извините, вы говорите по-английски?
Small.
Small?
Little.
Little? Do you live here in Narva?
2 years.
2 years?
Narva.
What is it like to live here?
Hardcore.
Yes. Are you originally from Estonia? Or
I'm from St. Petersburg, but 2 years I live in Narva.
Narva? How is it different here from St. Petersburg?
Чисто. I very bad speak English. I very like Narva.
You do?
So small words
It's
I
okay.
cannot speak.
What do you do?
I work in Aquafor manufactory.
Oh, manufacturing.
I'm an engineer.
Do you travel between here and Russia?
Sometimes in Estonia very bad medicine. Sometimes I need to go in St. Petersburg.
Is it easy to go back and forth?
Easy, but all time I worry about can I go back in Narva
Oh, okay.
because it's warm now.
Okay. It looks like they blocked off the entrance into this building completely. There's no way to get in, and all of the windows on the ground floor have been bricked up. I found a way to get in. This place is so decrepit and dilapidated. This thing has been falling apart for a very long time. This feels incredibly unsturdy right now. This seriously looks like a very old, bombed out, or just destroyed building that has just been left to rot away into the history books. You can definitely tell people have been up here over the past few months or years or however long amount of time, because there's a bunch of stuff like this, discarded bottles and trash, things like that. All right, this place is a bit creepy. I think I'm gonna get out of here. Извините, вы говорите по-английски? Вы говорите по-английски?
По-русски. По-русски.
Нет по-английски?
Нет.
Я сплю,
Извините, вы говорите по-английски?
Ага, sorry.
О,
No help. Переводчик. Sorry, what you're looking for?
I came to Narva and I was just interested in seeing what people who live here can, say about the city.
You want do some sightseeing or whatever? Господин хотел просто, услышать впечатление от жителей Нарвы. Как нам здесь живется? Да. Просто поговорить. Просто поговорить хотел. Да. Я думаю, да, ему что-то нужно. Would you mind to walk with us?
Yeah, sure. What was your name?
Ivan.
Ivan? I'm Duncan.
Duncan.
Nice to meet you,
Nice
Ivan.
to meet you.
How long have you lived in Narva?
Actually 6 years.
6 years.
6 years.
Do you know of anyone that has lived here prior to USSR dissolving?
Well, I think most of the people who live here skipped my mind. Oh, yeah, there is a Mormon church actually here.
Oh, there is.
So you have quite a few of your countrymen preaching to the locals.
Yeah, that's why I was really interested in the city, because most of the population is ethnically Russian, and then like 98% of the town speaks Russian. I thought that was really interesting. Under Soviet rule following the end of World War II, the original ethnically Estonian population of Narva was completely prohibited by Stalin's regime from returning to their homes in Narva after the Soviet bombings destroyed their city in 1944, and instead the town was repopulated and replaced with Russian-speaking workers plucked from areas all throughout the USSR. What is life like here?
I don't know.
You like living in Narva?
Like anywhere else, I guess.
Yeah.
Like it's. Primarily, It helps to integrate the local ethnic minorities.
Okay.
Like the majority and the minority living and working together in peace.
Where do most people come from? Like the top few countries?
Wow. In terms of numbers, I think the most significant number of people arriving lately was from Ukraine, which is quite obvious due to the war. So yeah, but I'd say most of the migrants come here from the former Soviet Union states. There were a few Russians. There were a few Ukrainians even prior to the start of the war. There were quite a few refugees coming here. Sorry.
Oh, of course.
Due to the war, there was a large intake of the political war refugees from Ukraine. There are a lot of transit refugees who come here, stay for a while, and then move on somewhere deeper into the European Union. But some of the people choose to stay, and of course they also need help.
Where did you live before Narva?
In Russia. Well, yeah, it's slightly more complicated than that because I lived all over the place. So mostly in Russia, but before that in Hungary and Norway.
Oh, really?
In the US for some time, in Washington DC for.
Oh, okay.
For 4 months. I've been a political scientist for quite a while, so I did my internships and exam preparations, courses, trainings all over the place.
I was not aware of how close like Russia was until I kind of like looked on a map and was like doing a little bit more research.
Right there.
Yes. Is it? Does it feel strange to live so close to? It's not just another country, but it's the border of the European Union and Russia. Does it feel strange to feel so close that you can see it from here?
It definitely feels strange. It felt strange that you can actually walk across the border when we just came here. There is a lot of, at least there were a lot of connections, and still there are. But of course, due to the war, these ties are being cut one after the other, which is expected. There are huge lines of the trucks, of the cars to get in due to the regulations and sanctions from the side of the European Union and Estonia in particular. Symmetric response from the Russian side, which makes the trade suffer, which weakens the connections between the European Union and Estonia and Russia. So I think if you're asking about strange, this is the strangest thing of them all. So this country is very close, but at the same time it's getting farther and farther away with the more atrocities it commits in Ukraine.
The reason why pre-war locals in Narva were barred from returning to their homes after the war was because Stalin had plans to build a uranium enrichment facility in Narva following the capitulation of the German armed forces. This uranium mining would serve the development of the Soviet nuclear program during the Cold War. However, Narva was ultimately not chosen as the site for the uranium enrichment. Instead, the nearby town of Sileme was chosen, and became one of only 2 closed cities in Estonia under the administration of the Soviet Union. Nonetheless, the locals living in Narva in early 1944 were still prohibited from returning to the city they once called home.
Like there is a lot of foot traffic still, so people go back and forth. Yet.
Are there people that live on one side and work on the other side? So we have that in the U.S. on a few border towns.
You do, but it's not that kind of border.
Exactly.
It's not that kind of border. Like I'd say, usually most of the people coming here or back there to Ivangorod usually use it as a shopping mall for buying something which is not there, which works for both sides. Even for those people who earn here a minimum wage, it's much cheaper to go and buy something there, which is not as much of a case, I think, after the war any longer.
Where do you see the future of Narva in the next 5 or 10 or 20 years?
Well, there are a few changes. If you walk here, you probably noticed that there are quite a few constructions.
I did, yes, there's quite a bit.
The entire education system will very soon be converted, and the minority schools will be converted from the Russian language only, and even those which observe a partial language of instruction in Russian will very soon be converted into Estonian only.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that takes quite a bit of effort and time, and of course, it's not always going on easy with lack of teachers, with lack of resources, but the state seems to be determined, and the professional community as well, though it just sees the challenges. I see it's being developed. I see that it grows and it will continue to grow, and also with there is actually no way but up. I don't know how much of the recent news you actually read here. If you'll read them, you'll notice that there are quite a few problems with economics, specifically. The economy suffers due to the high level of inflation, due to the war, actually, due to the ties, economic ties being raped, due to the energy crisis and the prices of electricity going up. So those are challenges which make Estonia react, adapt, and Narva being one part of the of this change and one of the solutions to the recovery from these challenges. And try looking up the news because it usually helps to get to know the place.
Okay.
Even for us, before coming here about 6 years ago, that was the first stop that we did to bring ourselves up, to catch up on the issues.
What? So, you speak Russian or Estonian more in your daily life?
I'd say Russian. In my professional life, it's the mixture of Estonian and Russian and English, actually, because I teach in English. On the everyday level, like you're going to a store, you talk to your relatives, friends, it will be mostly Russian because of the population, the population composition here.
How much longer do you expect to live in Narva, or do you want to stay here for the rest of your life?
We'll see about that, but I hope to live here, continue living here. It's an integral part of Estonia for me.
I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Problem.
I know it was really random running into you on the boardwalk here.
Good luck with this.
Is it okay if I take photos, videos?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
There is another group of two,
Okay.
but
I will be quiet.
They went in some time ago.
Oh, thank you.
All the way down again, and there you'll see the first scene with the mannequins.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. There's water all over these steps here. And dripping from the ceiling as well. You got these like stalactite formations right here. Got dripping stuff all over. I can barely stand up straight in this passageway right here. There's maybe like 3 inches of additional space between the top of my head and the bottom of the ceiling here. These bastions here that are very similar to the ones in Tallinn were constructed hundreds and hundreds of years ago and were used as a defensive mechanism for the town back then. And just like the ones in Tallinn, they were continually used as defensive structures, generally as bunkers for the civilians living here during World War II to get out of the way of the bombing raids from both the Germans and the Russians.
Still, they did not care all that much about the discomfort, as they firmly believed that within a few days, or a week at most, they would be able to return to their homes. When, several days later, quietness returned to the town, these cave dwellers returned to their homes one by one.
Now this bastion saw direct combat only in one conflict, and that was when 40,000 Russian soldiers besieged Narva in August of 1704, and unfortunately the local Swedish defenders here lost.
When the Russian troops began their siege of the town, in July 1704, the Narva garrison consisted in total of over 5,000 soldiers. There were Estonians, Finns, Swedes, and Germans. And with cuffs and a collar, a hat or a special cap called a carpus, knitted or leather gloves.
And from that day onwards, in August of 1704, until the beginning of the Estonian War for Independence in 1918, Estonia remained under Russian control, and then again fell under Russian control at the conclusion of World War II. Now, while the original purpose of these bastions, or these underground tunnels here, was for the defense of the city, they became used as bomb shelters in World War II by the local civilians who were trying to avoid getting killed by German bombing raids. And then again, in 1944, in March, when the local civilians were trying to avoid getting killed by Russian bombardment, which didn't unfortunately work in their favor because virtually the entire city was leveled in the bombing raids that the Soviets did in March of 1944. And then, obviously, of course, the city fell under Soviet rule after the end of the war.
But the grander scheme of things, you know, you see the 7 bastions. Yeah? The project, the Swedish project, the whole construction took 22 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so the bastions we see here, they were connected by curtain walls,
Ah, I see.
which are kind of weak spots. Yeah. So in order to protect these curtains, the ravelins were built. Those are just piles of dirt, but the big
Okay.
ones. So they cover curtains from the direct cannon fire. The bastions really didn't care about an occasional cannonball.
Yeah.
It took 10 days of bombardment for Peter the Great and around 4,000 cannonballs to break through Victoria Bastion.
Now, and that was in 1704, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
great.
Wow.
After that, the assault began and the city fell in 45 minutes.
45 minutes.
Yep.
How did they get across? I'm assuming there was no bridge back then. Did they just walk across?
The Peter's army were actually here.
Oh, so they were already across the banks of the river.
Yeah, they crossed the river.
Oh, okay.
Upstream.
Okay, I see. So they attacked from the west.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah. But they placed their batteries on the other bank.
Yeah, I see.
So this was the focal point of the barrage. The corner of the bastion crumbled, and the way into the city was open.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the thing is that by the rules of war by the time, if the city falls by an assault, the city is doomed. People are killed, but Peter the Great told his soldiers not to kill citizens.
Really?
Yep. Which was a very good decision because Narva fell under Russian power for more than 200 years.
Yeah, up until the Estonian War of Independence, starting in 1918.
And this way, Peter got himself not only the top-notch fortress, from the Swedes. He got himself a very loyal citizenry. Because through generations, people of Narva remembered that their lives was spared by Peter the Great. The loyalty to the Russian crown was really deep here.
So Peter the Great killed some of his own troops because they...
Yeah, like 3 or 4, as the legend goes.
As
an
the legend goes.
example, on the main square. Yeah,
Wow.
that's it.